next talk will be given by Rawle Andrews Jr., Executive Director of the American Psychiatric Association Foundation. Thank you.
Tell me how you spend your time and your money, and I will tell you what your priorities are. My name is Rawle Andrews. I am the Executive Director of the APA Foundation, and it is a privilege for the APA Foundation to be here at the 2023 Ideagen Global Goals Summit. 3 numbers to keep in mind as we convene for this auspicious occasion: 1 billion, 1 trillion, 7 years. 1 billion people suffering from a mental health condition around the world, according to the World Health Organization and other scientific societies. Lost global GDP, over $1 trillion. Absenteeism, presenteeism, mostly tied to depression and anxiety. 7 years. We have heard many times over the last 24 to 48 hours that 193 member states unanimously passed the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And yet, we're 7 years away from 2030, and we have not made enough progress. We have 7 years to gain some seriousness of purpose so that we can recalibrate and start really moving the dial so that we can get maximum output to get maximum impact. And so for my global leaders here, no matter whether you're from industry, NGO, or academia, unless our people can find a way to deliver maximum output, there's no way for us to get maximum impact at scale or at any other level. And that's why APA Foundation is here, because it all starts with getting your mind right. Because if your mind's not right, you're not ready to perform at the highest level in any of the domains in which the APA Foundation operates. Our mission and our vision is very straightforward, but it is difficult to execute. We are promoting the mental wellness of individuals and communities where we live, learn, work, worship, and play. But what about all the chatter? What about all the noise that makes it difficult for people to see, to hear, to become whole and well? And the first thing we say as people leaders, oh, bring your whole self to work. But then we don't provide any resources for people to be able to do that. We find ways to marginalize. We find ways to feed fear. We find ways to feed shame. We find ways to feed embarrassment. And in some instances, notwithstanding the 17 global goals, we find ways to discriminate. Now, as I have looked at social determinants of health, working with our team, what we have found is that coursing through the veins of every one of the 17 development goals, there is stress. And we all know and should know that there is positive stress or eustress, and there is negative stress or distress. And the question is, how do we navigate this spectrum of stress at any stage, at any age? Because unlike many of the other goals, where sometimes certain zip codes are further marginalized than others, mental illness doesn't discriminate against anybody at any age or at any stage, at any place, any time, or anywhere. You can be touched, your teammates can be touched, your loved ones can be touched, and what we do is get stuck on stigma. And that is why we haven't been able to discriminate or demonstrate the fire, the passion, the energy, the seriousness of purpose that is required, because we let a word that we don't understand, we let a word that we don't know where it come from, do something for a health condition that no other health condition is fighting to the current day. So one of the examples that we like to use is diabetes as it relates to depression. There was a time when people didn't know what A1C was. And now, whether you know what your A1C score is or not, you don't hear anybody talking about diabetes and stigma. You don't hear anybody talking about afraid to tell somebody at work, at play, at worship, I have diabetes, I'm type 2, I'm type 1, whatever the case may be. That's because we've prioritized it and we've recognized that diabetes is treatable, but you can still live a normal life. But you have a treatable health condition. Get some help if help is available, and let's move forward. The same is true of depression. Depression is a treatable condition. So we can't be stuck on stigma when somebody's trying to tell us, or we're trying to tell somebody else, that we need some help. All of us at some point are going to be touched, and I think the pandemic taught us anything it taught. None of us went into the pandemic the way we're coming out of it. So we're not whole and well, and so when you travel the world, since we're at a global summit, if you are in the Maasai villages of Africa, the first thing they say is not good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. What the Maasai say is, how are the children? And the common response, if true, is the children are well. And the message from that is that if the children are well, then the village is doing well, and we're doing the right things the way we're supposed to be doing them. Well, here's the news flash at the Global Goals Summit. The children are not all right, and neither are we. And that's why we must summon the courage to demonstrate seriousness of purpose, because it's going to take us working in our lanes, playing our positions expertly. Whatever your lane is, we don't need you when we hit the field to try to play all the positions. We just need to know that you're going to play your position. And you need to be able to trust that I'm going to play my position, because we have to be in the Ideagen conclave everyday players. There's no time for utility with only 7 years. We got to play every day. And we have to make sure our teams are ready to play every day. And when they're not ready, we have to summon the courage to say, if you need a day, take a day. That's one of your calls to action. Because if you can't do it today, don't do it. But I need you to come back tomorrow. But if you need a day, take a day, and then let's move forward. That doesn't mean when you need a day and you're taking a day that the work is going to stop. The next person has to be ready. So all of our teams have sub-teams, and they have sub-teams who are telling us, I'm not getting enough professional development. I need more professional development. And they want to go take a class. And what we've learned over the decades, the best professional development is when you're standing at the plate and somebody's throwing live pitches to you to try to get the work done. It's not taking a class with AI or online with some visor. Like, this is a hypothetical pitch under a hypothetical situation at Yankee Stadium, and this is what might happen. Trouble gonna come. Trouble comes to all of us, and some of us deal with it differently than others because we've been in the arena and we understand what's going on. So one of the things we gotta do is keep focused on that 7 years. We're doing something, we must do much more. The other thing I want to talk to you about is these forces of disruption that are standing in their way. And one of the things that I have talked to audiences about is rechanneling the David system. All of you have systems and platforms that you navigate each and every day, but none of you are executing the David system. And I told you that one of our domains is where we worship, and this is not spiritual, this is very secular. And one of the things we didn't understand from David, David only had one Goliath. We have a legion of Goliaths in front of us, and we have to be able to execute against all of those Goliaths each and every day. And so one of the Goliaths that we come into is this rapidly changing demographic set of circumstances where we're meeting different people from different cultures with different experiences. And they're meeting us, and we're seeing play out in real time. If you don't deal with demographics, bad things will continue to happen over and over and over again. So instead of working on these sustainable development goals, we are distracted by what happens when we don't get our arms around demographics. We got to do better. We got to have seriousness of purpose. The next one is technology. We know AI is here to stay. We're not against AI. But who created AI? Did AI create itself? I come from a generation where they used to ask, is it live or is it Memorex? Is it live or is it Memorex? And I think the message of that today isn't that you don't need live and Memorex, but what we've seen across the centuries, those who have done best for the longest period of time are those who have been able to harness, respect, and navigate technology so that you are not enslaved by technology, you are navigating technology with expert flair for the greater good. Then we have this lack of intellectual curiosity. This is a tough one. I don't know, and I don't care that I don't know. I don't know. I'm not going to look it up. I'm not going to try to find a solution. We have smart devices. We haven't gotten smarter. Have we? 7 years. Have we really gotten smarter? We have the technology. We could get the answer, but we're not seeking it. We're not demonstrating seriousness of purpose. Domestic tribalism. It doesn't matter where you go in the world, if you're not from my tribe, I don't want to have anything to do with you. I don't want to hear anything you have to say. Why are you here? Who sent you to me? I could learn from you. I could add value to what you're trying to do and vice versa, but because of domestic tribalism, you're out on site because your jersey doesn't match my jersey. Your dialect doesn't match my dialect. I just may not even like whether you're a Thai guy or you're not a Thai guy. And that causes me a reason to shut you down or you to shut me down before we even get started. And don't even let me get started on gender equity, because the reality of it is every major movement that's been led, almost since the beginning of time, has had women at the helm, sometimes working behind the scenes. But in many respects, you don't get mad against drunk driving about that kind of issue at scale unless mothers got excited about it. You know, these situations we see where kids are suffering from serious illnesses, and it's the mothers who start the movements. And I am proud to tell all at the Ideagen Global Goal Summit, my entire executive team is led by women. My entire executive team is led by women. And it's not because they're women that they're leaders. It's because they were the best people equipped to do the job, to stand in the plate, to take the pitches, so that I could stand here before the Global Goal Summit and tell you that mental health care works. But the work is still going on even though I'm up here. So we gotta work together and we can't be stuck on our tribes. So the Mental Health Care Works campaign, it starts from a very straightforward premise that we have to start prioritizing our mental health in the same way as we prioritize our physical health. So one of the things that's a misnomer is primary care and mental health care. Well, the last time I checked, I'm not and you're not a jigsaw puzzle. You don't have some pieces of the body and the brain over here and some pieces of the body and the brain over here. We're one human being. So if there's true primary care, you got to treat the whole person in order for them to be whole and well. So we got to start prioritizing our mental health in the same way as we prioritize our physical health. But because mental health has been misunderstood for well over 2,500 years, look at any aging parable, text, scripture. They always had problems with people who had mental health conditions. And they've always found a way to marginalize them. So in the United Kingdom, generations ago, they used to have what they call the ship of fools. And what they would do is put people who were suffering from mental illness on a ship, and they would sail them into one of the colonial islands of the United Kingdom and let them fend for themselves. We just don't want to be around them. We don't want to see them. At that time, they misunderstood that these conditions, not then, but today, are treatable. We don't have to isolate and marginalize. We can get people